now, News and Brews. Are you looking to uncover how design ideas are brought to life and talk to leading engineers who drive product innovation? It's time for D&M West correspondent Sammy Birch.
Welcome back to News and Brews. I'm here with Megan Smith, a brilliant young mind in the AI and robotics space. Megan is a fascinating young founder of a startup. Can you tell us a little bit about Velocity and what you're doing?
Yeah, so Velocity is a new business of mine. It's the culmination of essentially what I've learned throughout my lifetime. I grew up in a family of blue-collar workers. I learned what it was like to be a human who has to work like a robot. I became a roboticist. And now I see that humanity's moving forward and it's very data-driven, and we're seeing this shift in what humans want to do for a living and how data is coming into play here with AI-driven tools. And so that's the space that I am currently building in.
Amazing. We got a chance to talk a little bit last night. It was so awesome to meet you. Can you talk a little bit about, you grew up in Indiana, became a roboticist, and you've got quite an impressive resume. I mean, this girl is amazing. Can you talk a little bit about your path and some of the amazing experiences you've had?
Yeah, I would love to share, especially for folks who are looking to, get into robotics, technology, more of the cutting edge things that we're developing currently. So I grew up in an environment where nobody I grew up with, I didn't grow up with engineers. I did not grow up with people who worked at NASA or any roboticists. My mom worked in factories on assembly lines. My dad and grandpa had a trucking business, and so my dad's a diesel mechanic and drove semis until he retired recently. And so I just always had this thing inside of me that wanted to get out and explore. And now I know we call that an undying curiosity. And so, for young folks who may be in Indiana or somewhere in the Midwest or even, somewhere overseas in a smaller town that has less access to this technology, I just like to say that there's always a path if you are looking for something, especially these days with how connected we are on the internet. I've just always been working to solve my family's problems and my own problems throughout life. And that's how I ended up here.
Man, you are a superstar. I'm so glad we crossed paths. So, Velocity, so you're working to really enable new ways that people can work using data and using the tools that we have to make things easier. What are some of your goals for Velocity? Kind of where are you at in your journey, and what are you trying to, what does the next year look like?
Yeah, those are all great questions. So some of my goals with Velocity, the primary goal is to solve the problems that I've experienced in my career. And so we're all aware that there are labor shortages. There is this tribal knowledge that has been generated and not properly captured. So that's all valuable data. There are all of these specs that we need to adhere to as engineers, and there's a lot of knowledge and information around the ISOs, the Code of Federal Regulations, ways that we do things that is extremely important. And so with Velocity, the purpose is to gather all of this data, use the current AI models. And of course, I heard the gentleman before me speak on data leaks with ChatGPT. And so a lot of companies do not want to use ChatGPT for that reason. And so have these specialized models. You can have a specialist in mechanical design, in some form of analysis. And this is me speaking what's currently being developed and in the future. And so you have all these specialized models and coordination, and now all of a sudden you can move with much greater speed and with better direction, which is why we're called Velocity.
That's amazing. So you're really out to help people, it sounds like. You're really revolutionizing the future of work. And I want to kind of back up just a little bit and talk maybe about some of the experiences you've had. We don't get anywhere without our community and without our help. And you were telling me some great stuff backstage earlier about some of the awesome mentors you've had. So just talk a little bit about kind of how you got here. If there's a young listener that's inspired, what advice do you have for them, or how can we use mentors to really fuel our fire?
Yeah, that's have been one of the most important parts of my career. Being a young woman, I'm now 30, and I look very young still. So I still face some of the challenges that, women who are maybe in their 20s and starting their careers, I still see those challenges on a regular basis. And so what my mentors did for me was they had conversations. They understood my intellectual curiosity, my skills, and my passion, and they allowed me to work within that intersection. And so I was afforded the opportunity to work on space robotics on a NASA program right after college. And people in my environment, I worked at Northrop Grumman, people in my environment who saw what I was capable of, they lifted me up and then put me in a position that I had never seen someone who looked like me perform in this position. So I became the mechanical lead for a program that is now known as HALO, which is the space station that will orbit around the moon. And it became a $1 billion program, essentially. And so I was 25 at the time, moved to Houston, Texas, got to lead the manufacturing with an awesome company called USM. They have this incredible machine shop and these wonderful machinists. And so I got the chance to coordinate that and to lead that effort as a lead mechanical engineer. And then we delivered these modules to Johnson Space Center, and we did testing with the astronauts. And so, being that early in my career, I say that early, my first engineering internship, I was 19, because, going back to the question of how do people get in and do this, I went to the career fair at Purdue, which is where I went to college, and I just asked everybody everything I could until I found a fit and got a job in engineering. So that helped pay for my education. But fast forward to being 25 and getting this opportunity, that is always going to be an anchor that I tie myself to. So whenever I feel like, I'm going through adversity, people, 100% of people ask me how old I am whenever I speak on my passions. I can always anchor back and be like, okay, I've had this undying passion that will always live with me. And so that's how I know I'm on this path, and it's the right path.
That's amazing. Well, I think, just your story is unique, but I think having that passion and having the people in your space to say, hey, I'm going to push you off a cliff and you're going to fly and you're going to soar. And it's so important that we continue to build communities and keep sharing our message about that, not only to help move Velocity forward and move our industry forward, but also, I faced a similar thing where young in the industry, a woman in automation, it's like, how you don't know what you're talking about, why are you here, and how did you even get here? And I'm so excited about what you're doing, and keep sharing your message, because I think it is revolutionizing the way we work, and it's so important to continue to elevate women in the space. Yeah. And you're such a true testament to that, and I feel so lucky to meet you. Megan, how can people get a hold of you? And if anyone wants to reach out about Velocity or reach out as a professional connection, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank you, because you've been so incredibly wonderful and such a great inspiration. I also looked at your career and your background, and you told me quite a bit last night. And I just want to say, it doesn't take an engineering degree helps. It helps to go and get an engineering degree, but it doesn't take that to become a curious, creative person who, becomes an engineer, who really develops something special and puts it out in the world. And that could be a hardware product. It could be a robotic system. It could be code. It doesn't take an engineering degree, and I think that was a helpful part of my path, but I just want to say that you've been an inspiration for me this past day, getting to know you and hearing your story. And then as to how people can get a hold of me, I am on LinkedIn. It's Megan Smith, so that may be a little challenging to find. Typically, if you type in Megan Smith and then robots or NASA, that helps you on Google. But feel free to email me at megan@velocity.is. It's velocity.is because velocity is speed with direction. So.
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful opportunity to meet you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I'm excited to connect more and learn more from you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.